So today I'm going to show you how to polish a lip of a 3-piece wheel using this BBS RS lip I have here. And as you can see, it has a whole bunch of oxidation as well as the clear coats peeling, stuff like that. So we're going to take all that off and then polish it to make it look like a proper lip like this, nice fully polished and clean. Okay, so the first step is to remove whatever coating is on the lip beforehand. And so for this, it's just a clear coat, so we're going to take some paint stripper to it and strip off all this clear coat. That way it gets it down to bare metal. Okay, so for stripping these down, you're going to want to have some gloves on, that way it doesn't eat away at your skin because it burns like crazy. Grab some newspaper, place it down as well to protect whatever surface you have underneath. And after that, you're going to want to take your paint stripper, whatever it is. This is a aircraft paint remover. This is the gel type, although they also have a spray type that people prefer because it gets into the cracks a lot better. However, we're just going to use this one for today because that's what I have on hand. Wait for the pressure to go. Simply apply it onto the brush. Okay, once some of it's on the brush, just apply it. Now, as you can see, that clear coat is coming off. Just gonna wait 15 minutes with the wheel like that, and then you're gonna wash it off with some water to get off all the stuff. Because these lips are off of a 3-piece wheel, they belong to each wheel, so this happens to be number 4. So since you're stripping everything, including the inside, the Sharpie that you marked here with number 4 is going to come off. So take a piece of blue tape or whatever you have around and just make sure to keep in mind and mark that as number 4, so when you're stripping it, you don't get it confused with another lip. So I've let this lip sit for like 5 minutes now. And in order to take off the stripping, use a hose, get the spray down, and then just spray all the rest of the stripper off. After you've washed the lip, just dry it off with the rag, towel, whatever, and then apply more stripper, then spray it again, apply more stripper until everything comes off. Also, make sure to do it on the back side as well. And if you have, take something to remove this silicone. It can be a Dremel with like a little sanding bit on top of it, a little wire wheel, a Scotch-Brite wheel on a drill, stuff like that to remove the silicone. Oh, nice, bro. After stripping the wheel of all the clear coat and paint that was on here, including the backside, just make sure to mark again your lip with whatever wheel it came off from. I like to use a piece of tape. That way, whenever I'm stripping this and my Sharpie mark is coming off with the stripper, of course, that way I have a piece of tape and I just put it next to whatever the lip I'm working on. That way, after I'm done with it, I can put it back on and then remark it. So just double check to make sure while you're doing it that you're not like misplacing which lips goes to which wheels. Now, in order to polish the lip, you're gonna need a wet sand. And there's 2 ways to wet sand. You can either do it the proper way and the semi-cheating way. The proper way is to wet sand, starting off with 220 grit, then sanding all the way around in one direction until it's all the same consistency and grain, then moving up to 320 wet sand, 420 wet sand, 600 wet sand, 800 wet sand, 1000 wet sand, 1500 wet sand, and then 2000 grit wet sand, and doing that all the way around. Now that takes some time, and although it does get the finish really nice, I found an easier way, and that's just using 2 different types of sanding blocks, a medium grit as well as a fine grit sanding block. And so with these, you can just go ahead and start off with a medium grit, sanding all the way around the lip. It'll usually take around 2 sanding blocks, like 2 medium as well as 2 fine per lip, in order to get it to the same consistency. Just do that to remove all this corrosion, oxidation, and to make it the same grain. Okay, so I got a bucket of water with me right here, and I just take my medium grit sanding block, wet it in the water, then I'm just gonna go ahead and just start sanding. Make sure just to keep going in one direction. Don't go up and down like that. This is in order to keep the grain consistent. That way when you polish it, it looks nice. Make sure to constantly be wetting your either sandpaper or sanding block, whichever one you decide you're using. And then just keep working your way all the way around the wheel, one portion at a time. I like to start off doing this area first. Then after that, just drop down, do this area. Then you have to get this part, get inside here. You have to do the face where all the bolts are mounting in between. And then after that, you sort of do all your touch-up work with, you know, like the fine grit. Of course, you go over everything, and then you got to do the little spots that you miss. Okay, so this is after 20 minutes of wet sanding with the medium grit. Don't know how you're gonna be able to see that, but as you can see, this is how the oxidation was. See those parts? Basically done right here, this area, as well as this portion. Remember this part, which is pretty bad? That's pretty smooth now, besides those little grains of sandpaper in there. Yeah, that's 20 minutes so far of just wet sanding, and that's how much I've done, and that's just medium grit. So yeah, do some more work. Okay, so right now is a 50-minute sanding with the medium grit, and after this you sort of, you know, you want to make everything wet. That way you can see what you've sanded and what you haven't sanded, as well as what you need to do. And for the majority, the most part, everything is sanded pretty nice here, same grain, all same consistency. But I'm still gonna go over with the medium grit and look really carefully at all the things I might have missed, and really check closely, and that way I'll be able to get everything nice and smooth, because after the first sanding process, it's really hard to get out all those little imperfections. So while you're still at the medium grit, or you know, the 220 grit, if you're, or 220 or 320 grit, while if you're using the regular sandpaper, just make sure to check over all these little areas to make sure everything's consistent and there's no oxidation anywhere, if you have oxidation and stuff like that. Okay, I've dried off the lid. This is after doing the medium grit with the sanding block. And I still need to do a few touch-ups, but this is how it looks now, really smooth. Got rid of the oxidation and all that, just a comparison. This is how the lip basically looked before. Just about that much oxidation everywhere. And now, after just the medium grit, all smooth. Okay, now I'm done with the lip as far as the medium sanding block goes. All smooth, oxidation off, same grain, everything like that. So now I'm gonna move to the fine sanding block. Now I'm gonna do that, and you're just gonna, you know, if you're using the sanding block like I am, just gonna keep going until it gets really smooth, all the same grain consistency. Or if you're just going by sandpaper, you're just gonna keep going up and up and up for your grits until you get to that same consistency over and over and over again. So yeah, on with the fine. Okay, so now I'm done with all the wet sanding. I did the fine, everything's smooth, wet sanded. It took me, with the medium grit and the fine grit wet sandpaper, it was an hour and a half. to get it from the full oxidation type stage down to this, all satin looking. So now the next step is the actual polishing. Okay, so for polishing, there's a little process that goes on. So I'm gonna help you explain it. So you're gonna need buffing wheel compound set, which is basically buffing compounds, as well as buffing wheels. And each wheel has a certain compound that you use for it when you're buffing your lip out, which is basically just polishing it. So this is a sisal wheel, and you use that with the black compound. Okay? The black compound is a really fast cutting compound, and sometimes it'll create swirl marks in your job as well. And so I don't use this one when I polish. Instead, I start off with the brown one. The brown compound, which is I believe a tripoly compound or tripoly compound. It's also a semi-cutting compound, but it's not as bad as the black one. And that you use with the denim wheel. And you can get all three of these wheels in a set. Okay, and that one you use with a denim wheel. That's the brown one. Okay, and then after you've done that, then you can go ahead and move on to the little cushion sewn wheel right here. And this is the soft one. And this is for your final stage of polishing, which you use with the white compound. So basically, if you want to put it in order, you start off with the sisal wheel, the black compound, then you go to the denim wheel with the brown compound, and then the little cushion sewn one, which is the white compound. However, for my polishing needs and stuff, I don't use the black compound, and I don't use the sisal wheel. Instead, I start off with the denim, then I just move to the cushion sewn wheel with the brown and white compound. Now, as far as what tool you use with these, you need to use some sort of power tool. You can't just be doing this by hand because it doesn't get up to enough RPM. Read the description for more information about that. Okay, so now we're actually going to start polishing the lip. And make sure everything's around like room temperature when you're doing this, like your compound, stuff like that, because it works better. Don't go out 30-degree temperature trying to, polish your wheels, because this thing is really brittle and it'll just end up tearing up your wheel. Let's get to it. Now, after you've gone over it one time with the same wheel and compound, do it over again a second time, just to make sure you cover all the areas. Okay, so now that we're done with this compound, we're gonna go ahead and take some paint thinner or acetone or something like that. Put it on a cloth, and then we're gonna take off all this compound off of here. Okay, so now I did the tri-poly compound with the denim wheel, and so now I'm gonna move on to the next stage, which is the last stage, and that's gonna bring out that mirror polish sign, and that's with the cotton sewn wheel and the white rose. Okay, now for the finishing touch, some Mother's Mag and aluminum polish. There you go. There's your mirror polish right there. And once you go around through the whole wheel, you should have the equivalent, which is the whole lip done. Also, for good measure, use some magnet aluminum polish on the back side here. Now it's nice and shiny there compared to over here. So if you run stretch tires or something, at least it looks acceptable. Then of course, then you got the face. So that is how you polish a lip. Some magnet aluminum polish to finish it off. You got your compounds to do the actual polishing, your wet sanding. That's it. Ha, smiley face.